OC. Viewer discretion is advised. Incoming transmission in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, everybody? It's Courtney here from the Outcasted OC podcast. Now, as we always do, we are not wasting any time with any introductions. We are jumping straight into what happened on Monday Night Raw this week. Now, I will say before we start, there is a massive focus on the Judgment Day, and specifically Rhea Ripley and DOMINIK Mysterio throughout this entire episode of Monday Night Raw. So when there is moments sprinkled in the episode between them, I will be talking about it. But Raw started this week with a recap of where the Liv Morgan Revenge Tour has started. So it very much started with 3 months ago, when Rhea Ripley was taken out, and then obviously she had to vacate the title, and then showed us how Liv won the title and how she got into Dom's good graces, and then obviously how Rhea returned last week. Rhea Ripley leaves an elevator and she makes her way out to the arena. She talks about how Mami's home, and it's been 3 months that she's been out of the ring, and that's thanks to one person, which obviously she's referring to Liv Morgan. She said that, Liv's running around with something of mine, and no, it's not Dom. I'll handle him later. It's the Women's World title. It's the title that I never lost, and you did take me out, but you also did piss me off at the same time, so I want you to bring yourself out here so I can rip you apart. And so Dom comes out, and he comes out with a black rose. Now, this is very similar to the way that Eddie was trying to get back in Chyna's good graces. I felt the presence and the essence of that throughout this. He's trying to talk to her, people are booing her. Then he comes into the ring, and Liv Morgan appears on the screen, and she asks Rhea about her shoulder, and she said that she meant it when she said that she wanted to take everything from Rhea, and, she was like, I actually don't even know what you saw in Dom at the first place. I don't know what you saw in him, but then I got to know him, and I did things with him that you haven't done, and, he is just, everything I want and more. And she goes on to say that now she has him all to herself. And Dom's like, it's not what it looks like. And then Rhea basically goes ahead and says that when you get into my ring, the revenge tour is going to end. I've waited 3 months and a little bit of patience. I've got that for a little bit longer. And I'm going to challenge you at SummerSlam. So it's me and you for the title. And then Liv Morgan goes ahead and says, if this is the end game for the title, that's absolutely fine. But I'm not the same Liv Morgan that you once knew. And I helped Dom beat his deadbeat dad, which you could never do, and I'm finally going to beat you. And Rhea's like, look, if you're still listening, this is going to be us at SummerSlam, not just for the ending of the Revenge Tour, but ending of the title reign, and I'm going to completely end you. And I was like, oh, Mami, you tell him who's boss. But also she looked like a freaking queen. She looked stunning, honestly. So happy that Rhea's back. I love that I get to talk about my mommy because I missed my mommy so much. We have a couple of arrivals to the arena ahead of the schedule for Monday Night Raw. So we have Drew McIntyre, Gunther, Ilya Dragunov, and Sami Zayn arriving, and we find out that Ilya and Sami Zayn are going to be in the main event challenging for the Intercontinental Championship. That was a great match. I'll talk about it when we get to that moment. We have a moment where Rhea is walking backstage and Dom is trying to talk to her, and then she goes into this room that's filled of just complete black roses. She shuts the door, and then Damian Priest comes in, and he looks like he's having so much fun with this entire thing because he knows that Dom lied. He knows that Rhea's not happy. He knows that Dom hasn't spoken to Rhea in 3 months. So he's just loving this because he's like, Rhea's going to kick your ass. Have I not been saying this whole time, guys? Rhea is going to kick Dom's ass, and it's fantastic. And then there's a moment where he's like, is everything okay? And Dom's like, yeah, no, it's not okay. And I'm like, girl, you ain't fooling anybody. We know it's not okay up in here. We go back to the ring where we have the first match of the night, which is Sheamus taking on Bronson Reed. Now, this was obviously after what happened last week, and this was a really great match. Really great showing for both superstars here. So Bronson made a statement at the beginning of the match, but then we see Sheamus fighting from underneath. Sheamus and Bronson are fighting amongst each other, and then Sheamus goes to set up the 10 beats, but then Bronson ends up reversing it. Bronson hits a shoulder tackle onto Sheamus and ends up leveling him out. Sheamus ends up hitting the 10 beats on the commentary table, and then we come back from a commercial break to see that Sheamus is still in control. Bronson hits a really nice sit-out powerbomb. Sheamus hits a running knee and secures the win, and just when we think the match is over, Pete Dunne comes in and kicks Bronson Reed out of nowhere. Sheamus goes for a handshake, but then Pete ends up retreating, and he ends up beating Sheamus from behind, and Bronson hits the tsunami. I think it's safe to say that Pete Dunne has got some grudge, and he's obviously holding something against Sheamus, whether this is to do with the Brawling Brutes, but I can see a program between the two of them on starting at some point. I think it's going to be really good. The Judgment Day are back in full swing now. Everybody's in the clubhouse and Rhea and Damien are chatting amongst themselves, and Rhea's like, look, I'm so happy to see you guys. I'm so happy to be back. Thank you for keeping everything under control. And she goes, just curious, I got a question. What is Carlito doing here? And Damien's like, don't even get me started. And then Dom comes in to try and speak to Rhea, and he basically is like, I'm trying to talk to you. And Rhea's like, you literally haven't spoken to me in like 3 months. How about you go and play around with your little girlfriend? And then Carlito walks up and says to Damien, he's like, she's angry, huh? Like, Carlito's got some real good one-liners in this episode. It's absolutely fantastic. Sami Zayn ends up running into Ilya Dragunov backstage, and they're talking about the match that they are getting. Now, Sami Zayn said that he's given Ilya Dragunov the match because he asked Adam Pearce. He said, look, you've got a really special talent. You remind me so much of me, and when you're so deep in the fight, it's supposed to look ugly because it needs to be, and you deserve a chance at the Intercontinental Championship, but make sure that you bring your absolute best tonight. We have the same video package that we had for Gunther last week in preparation for his face-off against Damian Priest later on in the evening, and Zelina Vega's catching up with Jackie Redmond backstage. Now she's asking about Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, and she's like, look, I don't really care for either of them, but I'm going to be at the front of the line once the entire thing is done. And then we see Shayna, Zoe, and Sonya. Oh my god, they need a team name already. They come in and they basically say that the line actually starts with us, it doesn't start with you. Zelina's like, your scare tactics aren't doing it for me, and then we end up going into the match, which is Zelina Vega and Sonya Deville. Now, this is Sonya's first match back after 11 months after her ACL injury, so it's really great to see her. She just goes to work on Zelina straight away, and Sonya looked absolutely phenomenal. Zelina did incredible as well too. She hits the 619, and there's a moment where Shayna grabs Zelina's arm and obviously does some work on it. Then we see the Deville's advocate, and she secures the win. The group ends up attacking Zelina afterwards, and then we have Kaden Carter, Katana Chance, and Lyra Valkyria coming out and kind of neutralizing the situation. I feel like I've seen this before, but it's Monday Night Raw. What do you expect? Damian Priest is making his way out to the arena. He's walking backstage and he runs into Dom Mysterio. And Dom's like, why didn't you warn me about Rhea? Why didn't you tell me she was going to be coming back? And Damian's like, look, you lied to her and you lied about it all. And then Jay comes in and he's like, oh, so I heard that Rhea's single. And then he basically like just tries to like hype up Dom, and Dom's like, I'm going to go sort out a match between Adam Pearce and I to make this happen because I'm defending my MAMI. So Adam Pearce is backstage talking to the refs, and Chad Gable comes in and he talks about how he's cracked the code and how he's finally realized that Uncle Howdy is Bo Dallas, and he wants to know what's going to happen, and he wants to know if Adam Pearce is going to do any disciplinary action. And he's like, what are you going to do? And Adam's like, Bo's here tonight, and why don't you just go talk to him? And then Chad's like, I'm going to go call Bo out tonight. And I'm like, okay, you do that. Damian Priest makes his way out to the ring, and he's obviously talking about how he's going to match against Braun Strowman first and foremost, but he wants this face-off with Gunther now. So Gunther comes out and he says to Damian, he says, look, you're still very confident, you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, and you're living out your childhood dream with that title. I've made my assessment after taking some time away, and you're not living up to it. The reign has been nothing, there's no prestige, and I want to lift that weight off your shoulders, so how about you just hand me the title and we move on. And Damian's like, I really just want to knock the smirk off your face. This was never your dream. When I was fighting for my life on the streets, when you were getting everything handed to you. He said this is not just a dream, and that we don't need you, and that he's earned this, and that you are the last person that is going to be taking this from me. Gunther says, I recognize your hardship, and let's be honest, being a part of the streets is a choice. My qualities and greatness were recognized my entire life, and WWE was begging me to come here. He goes ahead and says that he wants to avoid people like Damian Priest who try to get in the position to call themselves the World Heavyweight Champion. He says he's going to restore prestige to the sport and the World Heavyweight Championship. And he said, the crowd is all just like you. They're absolute street trash. And Damian's like, street trash? Since you seem to have so much clarity, it's funny because you can't actually see what's coming to you, and you can't see why you lost the Intercontinental Championship. You've got no heart. And he says that you have to fight for everything that you have, and at SummerSlam, I'm going to remain the World Heavyweight Champion, and you are going to have to fight from the bottom, because after SummerSlam, if you're more than just a conceited, privileged scumbag. And then Braun Strowman comes out, which is very interesting. Obviously, that's in preparation for their match, which happens, but we go backstage, and we see that Adam Pearce is chatting with Jey Uso and they set up the match for him and Dominic later on in the evening. Braun comes in and he's upset about the fact that Ilya gets an Intercontinental Championship title match. Obviously, he wants a rematch with Sami Zayn, but Adam's like, look, you lost at Money in the Bank fair and square, and Braun's like, I'm just going to destroy everybody in it. And then there's a moment where Braun leaves. He's like, I know where to find the door, and then Adam Pearce is like, security, can you just make sure he gets out of the building? Back to the ring where we have Damian and Braun Strowman ready in the ring for their match. Now, Braun powers over Damian at the beginning, but Damian's fast kicks with his MMA background really come into gear. He ends up having a kick to the face. He kicks Braun Strowman, and then Braun ends up powering up, and then he throws Damian across the ring and goes to set up the Express, but Damian Priest ends up dodging this and sends Braun into the barricade. And then when we come back from the commercial break, Priest is very much in control of this match. He hits a really nice spinning kick and he ends up securing the win by a South of Heaven chokeslam onto Braun Strowman. Gunther comes out after the match, starts chopping Damian, and they just start brawling. We go backstage and we have the Alpha Academy. Now we've got Akira, Maxine, and Otis all talking amongst each other, and we see Chad Gable looming in the background, and he comes in and thinks that the Alpha Academy has come round and wants to help him out, but he was basically assuming that the Alpha Academy were talking about him when the Alpha Academy were actually talking about helping Xavier Woods out next week when it comes to the Final Testament. This being because Kofi Kingston is now out with injury, and Chad's really disappointed with this. He's very upset by it, but at the same time, the Alpha Academy stand their ground and they do their thing, and I'm so happy that Otis is like, no, we're not helping you. We have a tag match, which I feel like I've spoken about multiple times before, so I didn't write any notes, but I'll just give you the premise of the match. Kaden Carter and Katana Chance take on Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. I know, I feel like I've seen this 4 times before, but we had Lyra Valkyria and Sonya Deville ringside, so they were obviously trying to help out their team, and we ended up seeing Zoe and Shayna securing the win, which is really great because if you want to have this debut faction come through, you obviously want to give them a lot of wins. They look really strong, they look really powerful, and honestly, if I'm being 100% real with you guys, I can see them holding the tag titles and Sonya holding a mid-card title if they bring it in, because I feel like they'll be such a strong, powerful group. I feel like they are everything that Damage Control wanted to be, if that makes sense. And I'm not trying to say it in a mean way, I don't know, I just feel like this pairing with everybody just fits so well. Speaking of so well, JD and Finn and Rhea are talking backstage in the clubhouse, and Rhea's like, look, we want to address the elephant in the room. I know that, Liv helped you win the titles, but it's my turn to get my title back. Dom comes in and goes ahead and says to Rhea, Jay was talking out of line about you, so I got a match between me and him tonight. And Rhea's like, are you stupid? And Dom's like, you're still my mommy and you still belong to me. And Rhea, oh my God, looked at him, looked like she was about to kill him. I feel like she looked at him and said, are you serious? And just like walks off. And Carlito comes in and just goes, not cool. So, and it was funny because on the background as well too, on the TV, the match that they were playing was actually Rhea and Liv. So foreshadowing. But anyway, Drew McIntyre has arrived and Adam Pearce welcomes him out to the ring. And Pearce is like, look, let's not waste any time with this. CM Punk and Drew McIntyre is going to be something special. I know the crowd wants the match. I want the match. CM Punk wants it. He's doing his absolute best to get medically cleared. Drew, how bad do you want this? Drew's like, I want this more than anything in the world. And Adam Pearce is like, look, let's get ready to do business if you can be professional. And Drew goes ahead and says, I watched Punk and Rollins last week in the ring, and I know that everyone is ready for this match at SummerSlam. They're ready. Can we just make it official? Adam's like, sure thing, but I just need one thing from you. And the 2 refs that are standing outside of the ring come in, and he goes, I need you to apologize to these 2. You hurt them. You need to make it right. Drew's like, why? You're embarrassing me. Like, just make the match official. And he cannot bring himself to apologize to these 2 poor referees, who then Drew ends up going off about Adam for everything. Obviously, he just lets his trauma dump come out, and he's still suspended because Adam's like, if you can't apologize to these 2, like, I've got no choice but to suspend you for longer. And he turns around and slowly pushes the referees away, and then he has a face-to-face with Adam Pearce when Seth Rollins runs out to the ring and brawls with Drew McIntyre and makes a save for Adam Pearce. I feel like they're going to find a way to make this a triple threat for SummerSlam, and then eventually have just Drew and Punk at Bad Blood, which is obviously the show that I'm assuming is after SummerSlam. I feel like that's the best way to get as much meat out of this feud as you can. I was so excited to see Seth Rollins. I'm like, my boy's looking so good. Pat McAfee was talking about how there was some Wyatt Six interference on his show and there was a package that was left. We got to see the clip from the Pat McAfee show. I wasn't aware that this happened earlier in the day, but we have another Wyatt Six VHS tape, and now this is actually Eric Rowan talking to Uncle Howdy. So Uncle Howdy asks Eric, how have you been? And Eric says, the last few years have been very hard. I used to have a family. We were unstoppable, inseparable, and we always had each other's back. And then one day, my whole world changed. I lost a brother. The person who believed in me more than anything was gone. I got up, I wiped the dust off, and I kept moving, and life just went on. And, everything's going good, and then I lose another brother. Another brother's gone. I had no more family and no more will. I fell down a well and I couldn't get myself out. And Howdy's like, well, how does this make you feel? And he throws the old sheep's mask into Eric Rowan's hand. And he looks at it and he says, look, this gives me hope. When I was at my lowest, you'd reached out and you'd pulled me out of this well. I knew I needed help, and now I have a purpose in my life, and it's to help those like myself. This is a beacon of hope, and we're going to take all of these broken hearts and make some beautiful art. And I really enjoyed this because not only did it show me why Eric's motivations are to be with the Wyatt Six and how he feels like how Uncle Howdy has really pulled him out of the pits of hell of where he found himself. But also you can see that he's talking in emotion about the way that Luke Harper and the way that Bray Wyatt meant so much to him. So I really enjoyed just the transparency within this video and just the overall emotion. I feel like with this, whilst this is a wrestling storyline, you also have to remember that these are real people who have experienced this real life hardship. So I really enjoyed this Wyatt Six video. And then we end up going back to the ring where we have Dominik Mysterio taking on Jey Uso. Now, Dom just goes for Jey before the match even starts, but Jey fights back. Then Dom hits a really nice drop kick and goes for the Three Amigos. He sets up the 619, but Jey ends up ducking underneath. He sends Jey into the ring post, and when we come back from commercial, Jey has turned the match around in his favor. And then there's a moment where Liv ends up pulling Dom out of the ring and gets into that precarious situation again where she's on top. And then Rhea comes out to try and grab Liv. Liv ends up running up the stairs. Jey capitalizes off the distraction, hits a spear and an Uso splash to secure the win. Rhea Ripley looks pissed because obviously Dom was like, I'm going to win this match for you. I'm doing this in your honor. But he's a big fat loser, Rhea. You deserve so much better. But that's neither here nor there. Ilya Dragunov, we had a video package for him, obviously, before the main event. And then Dom ends up running into Damien, and Rhea comes in and basically says that I don't belong to anybody. I'm not yours, you're mine. And this is obviously to Dom Mysterio. So maybe there's a little bit of reconciliation between the two of them. But to be honest, I think Rhea, at the end of the day, you need to take that man and beat him in the curb. He's for the streets at this point. You don't deserve him. You're an absolute queen. You don't deserve a joker like Dom Mysterio. Chad Gable comes out to the ring and he talks about how he solved the greatest mystery ever within WWE and he's uncovered the true identity of Uncle Howdy and that it's Bo Dallas. He says he's cracked the case and he obviously calls out Bo Dallas to the ring. He comes out, and before he has a chance to get any closer to the ring, we end up seeing the Creed brothers attacking Bo Dallas from behind, both laughing after being crawled and rolled into the ring after this beatdown from the Creeds. Chad ends up hitting Bo. Bo's laughing in their faces, but Bo continually gets beaten down more, but he continues to laugh like he's enjoying this sick beating or something. And then Bo looks at Chad and says, there you are. The lights go out, the Wyatt Six come down to the ring, and then the Creeds and Chad end up leaving the ring, and Bo ends up falling into the middle of the ring where the Wyatt Six enter, and they all embrace and stand in the middle of the ring. I thought this was quite cool. I really enjoyed how the Creeds are now being seen on TV. I was really wondering where that interference was going to come in and also kind of their alliance with Chad Gable as well too. We hit the main event, which is Sami Zayn and Ilya Dragunov. Now this is for the Intercontinental Championship. This was a really awesome match. Ilya looked really great in it and Sami obviously did what he does best as well too. I feel like their wrestling styles really melded well together in this match. So Sami and Ilya are just grappling from the start and exchanging blows, and then Sami ends up hitting a moonsault which takes out Ilya. We come back from a commercial break and there's an exchange of hits between the two and a Constantine special coming in from Ilya. Sami ends up outsmarting Ilya Dragunov with a clothesline and hits a blue thunderbomb. Ilya hits a reverse German suplex, and we see an exploder suplex coming in from Sami. Sami hits a running knee, an H-bomb comes in, and a coast-to-coast by Ilya, but then we end up seeing the Helluva kick come in, and we see Braun come out from the side of the entrance ramp, and he runs around the ring and ends up spearing Ilya, which unfortunately means that nobody won this match. Braun ends up grabbing Sami and they end up brawling, and we have a backdrop coming in from Braun, and then Braun ends up spearing Sami in the ring, and he ends up looking on top coming out of Raw. Personally, I feel as though they are going to set up a rematch at SummerSlam, where I'm really hoping that Braun Breaker gets the win, because if he's just come out of this Money in the Bank ladder match, PLE match with Sami Zayn, I feel like you want to give him that first loss so he doesn't get it straight away, but I feel as though he'll potentially win it at SummerSlam, which I'm really hoping for. And that is everything that happened on Monday Night Raw for this week. Guys, if you stuck around till the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you go ahead and show the channel some support by liking the video and commenting something down below that you enjoyed about Monday Night Raw this week. Are you excited for Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam? Do you think Rhea Ripley is going to forgive Dominik Mysterio? Leave all your thoughts down there. We would love to know what you guys think. While you're there as well too, you guys should subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell icon so you do not miss any of our future uploads, whether they are a podcast or a review. We would hate for you guys to miss the content that we are putting out for you guys. You've got your regularly scheduled NXT review coming in from Reese this week, as well as a podcast coming in on Thursday and the SmackDown review. If you check out the description, you can find all of our links to where you can find Outcasted on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, as well as where you can find everybody on other social medias, so you can keep up to date with what we're doing when we're not posting on the channel. I'll see you guys in the podcast this week. I am super excited for it. We're revisiting the TNA crossover we did, and we're going to be making a PLE with all of the matches that we had. So I'll see you guys in the podcast this week. Bye, guys.